The Fire Within, a story of unshakable determination. In the humble village of Raniket, where the earth cracked with droughts and monsoons alike, a boy named Aarav came into the world with nothing more than the warmth of his mother's shawl and his father's calloused hands to protect him. His family owned no land. His father borrowed tools to work others' fields, and his mother stitched secondhand clothes to pay for rice. They didn't dream big. They dreamed just enough to get through the week. But Aarav was different. He didn't want to just survive. He wanted to change everything. From a young age, Aarav showed an unusual hunger for learning. He followed his sister to school, even when he wasn't enrolled yet, peeking through windows just to listen. At 5, he learned to write his name in the dust outside their hut. By the time he officially joined primary school, he was ahead in reading. But challenges came fast. Torn uniforms, missing textbooks, and the mockery of other kids who believed children from poor homes didn't belong in classrooms. Still, he held on to every lesson like it was treasure. His teacher once said, "You have the mind of someone twice your age." It was the first compliment he remembered. As he grew older and moved into middle school, Aarav became the last to arrive, and the first to leave to help in the fields. His classmates had polished shoes and fountain pens. He had a torn satchel and a stubborn pencil. The village boys teased him. "Why study? You'll always be one of us." He smiled, never argued, not because they were right, but because he had no time to waste. Each evening, he studied under the weak light of a kerosene lamp. When he had no textbooks, he borrowed from older students. When the rain soaked their mud-walled home, he wrapped his books in plastic and waited for the leak to stop. And when he failed his first scholarship exam at age 13, he didn't cry. He simply studied harder. Years passed, and Aarav entered secondary school. By 16, he had applied to 5 scholarship programs, all rejections. On the day he received the 5th, Aarav didn't go home. He wandered, angry, lost, humiliated. That night, under the banyan tree by the riverbank, he threw his bag on the ground and cried for the first time in years. That's when the old sadhu, the madman of the forest, some said, appeared again. His saffron robe rustled like dry leaves. "You think failure is new?" he asked without greeting. Aarav wiped his face. "Why does effort mean nothing when you're born with nothing?" The sadhu stared at him for a long time. Then he pointed to the mountain nearby and said, "Carry water up there, a full pot, every day, for 12 days. Why? Because that's how long it takes to hear your own soul instead of your doubt." Aarav nodded, too numb to protest. The trail was jagged and cruel. By the 4th day, Aarav's hands were blistered. On the 7th, he slipped and broke the pot. On the 9th, it rained and he nearly turned back. But each time, the sadhu waited, at the top, in silence. On the 12th day, Aarav reached the peak, panting, pot full. The sadhu asked, "Was this about the water?" "No," Aarav replied. "It was about not giving up." "Now you're ready to write," the sadhu said. That night, Aarav rewrote his scholarship essay, not as a boy begging for a chance, but as a warrior claiming his path. It worked. University in Pune was noise, neon lights, and conversations he didn't understand. He didn't own a suitcase. His clothes barely fit. The first question his roommate asked, "You're from where?" said with an eyebrow raised. He wanted to run. But he remembered the mountain, the pot, the silence. He stayed, listened, watched. He scribbled unknown words on napkins, whispered them to himself while brushing teeth. He failed his first exam. He passed the second, and by the 3rd, he raised his hand in class, voice shaking but raised. He skipped meals to afford handouts, used expired ID cards to sneak into internet cafes. Once, he fainted during a presentation. The professor took him aside, handed him a banana and a biscuit packet, then said, "Don't waste your mind just because your body's tired. Rest, then come fight again." Aarav nodded. He began tutoring kids after class. Teaching others became his new learning. One weekend, tired of it all, he boarded a bus home. But halfway through, he jumped off, not homeward. He walked for hours until he reached the same banyan tree. The sadhu was still there. "I thought I'd passed the test," Aarav said. "You did," the sadhu replied, "but the mountain grows taller as you grow stronger." He handed Aarav a leaf with one line written in ash. "When the soul forgets its fire, walk until your feet remember." Aarav carried that leaf in his wallet for years. After graduation, the companies picked polished voices and pretty resumes. Aarav's email stayed silent. 10 interviews, 10 rejections. Not a cultural fit. Too quiet. Lack of English fluency. He rewrote his CV, watched Steve Jobs and Obama speeches, practiced posture and pronunciation in front of cracked mirrors. He didn't become fluent, but he became fierce. One glass building, 32nd floor, a receptionist who didn't look up. Aarav sat across 3 suits. They asked his name, his journey. He didn't tell them he was poor. He told them how the mountain taught him to keep going, how teaching made him smarter, how failure shaped his memory sharper than privilege ever could. 2 days later, an email arrived. "We would like to welcome you on board." He didn't cry. He breathed. Then he booked a train home. In Runniket, he bought bricks, hired masons, and built a one-room center with his first paycheck. Kids came, barefoot, notebooks folded in half. He called it the Climb Foundation. He didn't teach for money. He taught because he remembered. Came in shy, speech stuttering. Aarav gave him a pencil and asked, "What do you want to be?" "Not like them," replied. "Like you." Aarav smiled. "Then we climb." Years later, sat beside him at sunset. "Sir, were you ever scared?" Aarav looked at the hills and said, "Every day, but fear isn't the enemy. Stopping is." He handed the old leaf with faded ash lines. Read it aloud. "When the soul forgets its fire, walk until your feet remember." Subscribe to Stay Inspired 86 for real stories of ordinary people who climbed anyway.